What if Yuta Okotsu, the special great sorcerer, was in Demon Slayer? Would the Queen of Curses Rika be able to devour the upper moons? And most importantly, how would cursed energy interact with demon biology? See, Yuta is transported right after the events of the Culling game, at the peak of his power and control over Rika. When facing a special grade curse, it sends him directly to another universe, or rather, to the universe of Demon Slayer. Yuta doesn't appear just anywhere, but on top of a moving train. Because he's a jujutsu sorcerer, Yuta can sense the demon for the same reasons he senses curses. Hostile intent, distorted aura, and unnatural presence. He wouldn't call it a curse, but his instincts would already be in combat mode before he even understood what it was, feeling a dense evil aura that he knows very well. Yuta gets ready for battle. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Yuta has the reverse curse technique which generates positive energy. In the world of Jujutsu, positive energy is a pure energy that instantly exterminates curses, since attacks with positive energy directly affect the opponent's soul. In Demon Slayer, the demons are vulnerable to sunlight, which is pure energy. Therefore, Yuta's reverse curse technique would work like a constant red Nichiren blade. The touch of his hand charged with positive energy would be lethal to any demon, nullifying cellular regeneration at the molecular level. Upon entering the train, the situation is already chaotic. Enmu is trying at full steam to consume the passengers on the train, but is stopped by Rengoku, Zenitsu, and Nezuko. Obviously, Yuta would do his part. Soon, when Tanjiro decapitates Enmu, the train derails. As the dust settles, an overwhelming presence appears. Akaza, the Upper Moon 3. And now, will Yuta join Rengoku in this battle against the Upper Moon 3? And most importantly, will Yuta be able to save Rengoku from his imminent death? Look, the battle begins exactly as we know it. Rengoku and Akaza exchange blows at imperceptible speeds. But, at the moment, Akaza prepares his fatal blow to pierce Rengoku. A gigantic and grotesque shadow materializes behind the upper moon. A cry rings out, "Don't move!" It was the voice of Yuta, using the cursed speech copied from Numaki, which freezes the Oni in the air. It's not a physical paralysis, it's an order imposed on the soul. Akaza, which has sharp senses and its compass ability, detects a new fighting spirit, leaving it in a panic. He doesn't just feel the fighting spirit coming from Yuta, he feels a sinister amount of energy that makes Muzan's own aura seem like child's play. Rika holds Akaza's arms with overwhelming brute strength. Even though Akaza is capable of destroying buildings with air punches and moving at hypersonic speed, Yuta can be physically compared to Yuji and awakened Maki when he reinforces his body with cursed energy. With Rika, who is a physical calamity capable of destroying cities, Akaza is physically overpowered. He tries to regenerate the arms crushed by Rika, but Yuta draws his katana. He doesn't have a Nichiren, but he wraps it in positive energy. In a fluid motion, Yuta cuts Akaza's torso. Where the blade touches, the Oni's flesh doesn't regenerate. Akaza, for the first time in centuries, feels the fear of real death. He tears off his own arms to escape Rika's grip and flees into the forest. But Yuta and Rengoku wouldn't let that happen. Both of them join forces to defeat Akaza. Rengoku out of necessity and Yuta thinking he's fighting a powerful curse. They end up joining forces. When Akaza is decapitated, the Oni disintegrates and Rengoku survives. Yes, the flame Hashira is alive, but Yuta's existence alters the balance. Muzan, through Akaza's cells, feels the pain of positive energy. He realizes there is a human capable of simulating the sun. The order changes. The priority is no longer just the blue spider lily, but Yuta Okotsu's head. When Yuta tries to understand his situation, just like Rengoku and the others, the best choice is to take Yuta to the Demon Slayer core. The Hashiras, initially hostile due to Rika's cursed aura, which Sanem and Gyomei perceive as something demonic, are calmed down by Boyashiki. The Master, with his ability to foresee the future, sees in Yuta not a threat, but the key. Boyashiki and Yuta exchange information, and Yuta explains curses and the kind of energy used in his universe. something that allowed him to fight against Akaza. Shinobu Okotsu is fascinated. If Yuta can generate positive energy, can he heal? Yes. Yuta uses his reverse technique on Boyashiki. Although he can't heal the family's entire genetic curse, he reverses the master's physical deterioration, allowing Boyashiki to walk and see again. This raises the core's morale to divine levels. Kaguya tells Yuta about Muzan, the king of the demons, who possesses the knowledge of every existing Oni, with some being able to take him back. With that, Yuta joins the Demon Slayer Corps. Tengen, seeing Yuta's power, asks for his help to save his wives. Soon we head to the entertainment district. Thanks to the Jujutsu sorcerer's sense, Yuta manages to locate Daki, making easy work of her. Rika manifests and, with her brutality, uses Daki's own bindings to tie her up. But the real problem is Gyutaro, who appears after realizing his sister is having trouble. The poison from Upper Moon 6 is lethal. Uzui is hit and Tanjiro is injured. Normally it would be a race against time, but Yuta is there. Gyutaro strikes Yuta with his poisoned attacks and laughs, thinking he has won, but Yuta doesn't even blink. He uses the reverse technique on himself, instantly neutralizing the poison. Then he touches Uzui's back, completely healing the Hashira. Gyutaro's tactical advantage with his poison disappears, but Yuta does something more. His innate technique is copy. To copy, Rika needs to consume part of the target. So, at the slightest opening, Rika devours the arm that was cut off from Gyutaro by Tengen. Yuta now has temporary access to blood manipulation, something similar to Gyutaro's blood art. Yuta fires bursts of razor-sharp blood reinforced with cursed energy at the siblings. Uzui, in full form and without poison, together with Tanjiro, decapitate Daki while Yuta and Rika pulverize Gyutaro. Thanks to Yuta, Uzui sees potential he hadn't noticed before. Not retiring, he wants to stay active in the core. Now look, at this point, the core has 2 more Hashiras than in the original timeline, Rengoku and Uzui. Tanjiro doesn't awaken the Demon Slayer mark, since the fight was less desperate, which will be a problem in the future. Muzan, furious about the death of another moon and the reports about the sorcerer, calls an emergency meeting. He decides that Hantengu and Gyoko should attack the Swordsmith village immediately, but with reinforcements, Kokushibo, Muzan won't take any chances. He knows that Yuta is an anomaly who is drastically changing the future of the Demon Slayers. Without Tanjiro damaging his sword in a direct fight against Gyutaro, there would be no reason for him to go to the Swordsmith village. Tanjiro's presence is essential for the survival of Muichiro and Mitsuri in the Swordsmith village. But fear not, because as a way to reward Yuta for his help, Uzui would send him to the Swordsmith village. After all, Yuta needs to recover, and there's nothing better than the best hot springs in Japan. When he meets Muichiro, Yuta realizes how comforting his company is, but the moment of peace is about to end as the village is invaded by Upper Moons 4 and 5. At this moment, Yuta senses the presence of the Upper Moons even before they start to act, getting ready for battle alongside Muichiro. But the presence of Kokushibo changes everything. Yuta, who was heading alongside Mitsuri to fight against Gyoku, changes his direction to make sure that Kokushibo, the Oni with the most intimidating presence, doesn't claim any victims. So Mitsuri faces Gyoku directly on her own. The love Hashira's crow, upon realizing that Gyoku is an Upper Moon, requests the presence of Muichiro. And the two of them together manage to defeat Upper Moon 5. Although Gyoku is a very powerful Upper Moon 1 is a monster of another level. The moon breathing wipes out a huge area of the village. Before his next attack, Yuta arrives on the battlefield, intercepting the moon breathing slash with his katana. Despite Kokushibo having 400 years of experience and the transparent world, Yuta has Rika and his copy techniques, something that could put him on equal footing here. Kokushibo sees Yuta's muscle structure and notices something strange. The flow of energy doesn't follow veins or lungs. It's an aura that covers everything like armor. Yuta Yuta fully summons Rika, and realizing Kokushibo's power, Yuta uses his cursed speech, shouting "Die" at the Oni. Kokushibo freezes for 1 millisecond, taking massive internal damage, coughing up blood from his ruptured throat. But his power is overwhelming, breaking the spell and regenerating instantly. Yuta realizes he can't defeat Kokushibo with swordsmanship alone. He needs firepower. Rika opens her arsenal of stored weapons. Yuta grabs a cursed gauntlet, a special grade tool, and delivers a punch charged with the thin icebreaker. Copied from Uro in Jujutsu Kaisen, the sky above the village cracks. The impact distorts space, hitting Kokushibo even as he defends. However, Kokushibo activates his longsword full of chaotic blades, and Yuta is slashed multiple times, surviving only by constantly using the automatic reverse technique. Just like Gojo and Hakari, he is burning a lot of cursed energy. The turning point happens when Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke arrive. That's right, Zenitsu and Inosuke pestered Uzui to send them to the Swordsmith village too, since it would be good to rest. Soon, Tanjiro would join them, but because of the delay in the battle, even though the hunters joined forces to decapitate, Hantengu was exposed to the sun. Nezuko was also exposed and managed to conquer the sun. Muzan sees this through Hantengu's memories before he dies. The priority changes instantly. Kokushibo receives the order to retreat. He unleashes a storm of crescent moons that devastates the village, forcing Yuta to use Rika as a shield to save the blacksmiths, allowing Kokushibo to escape. The Hashira training arc begins, but it's different. With Rengoku, Zui, and Yuta active, the overall power level shoots up. Yuta works as a healing cheat code. The hunters can train to the brink of death, have their fists broken, and Yuta heals them in seconds. Thanks to this, Tanjiro and the others unlock the hunter's mark much faster due to the intensity allowed by Yuta's healing. Yuta, however, focuses on something specific in training. He asks to have the Nichiren blades analyzed. He realizes that they absorb sunlight. He asks Haganazuka to forge a Nichiren katana that can withstand his massive cursed energy. Now, Yuta has a weapon that channels both his energy and the weakness of the demons. Muzan invades Ubuyashiki's mansion. The explosion happens, Tamayo injects the poison, and everyone falls into the Infinity Castle. Now, major changes are about to happen. In Shinobu's fight against Duma, the Hashira is much stronger thanks to intense training, surviving until Kanao and Inosuke arrive as reinforcements. When Duma tries to absorb Shinobu, Yuta appears, breaking through the ceiling. He uses the cursed speech, sleep. Duma is caught by surprise and ends up getting drowsy. Kanao and Inosuke take the opportunity to attack, while Yuta takes the opportunity to copy the demon's cryokinetic techniques. The battle is fierce, but they are able to rival Duma. The hunters win, Shinobu survives, and the hunters continue separately to meet Muzan in the Infinity Castle. Yuta ends up running into Kokushibo, who is fighting against Gyomei, Sanemi, Muchiro, and Genya. This is a decisive battle, a rematch for Yuta. When Gyomei manages to injure the Oni, Rika takes the opportunity to eat the Oni's severed limb and copy its ability. Yuta can now use the Oni's blood arts, putting the Oni in trouble, but Kokushibo evolves into his most grotesque form. Muchiro would have been cut in half here, but Yuta uses Uro's sky manipulation to deflect the fatal blow that would have killed the young Hashira. He activates his domain expansion, Mutual and Authentic Love. Inside the domain, the guaranteed hit effect of Yuta's copy technique is activated. Countless katanas appear. Yuta chooses the katana that contains the angel's Jacob's Ladder technique. He floods the domain with purifying light. Kokushibo, trapped in the domain and attacked by Rika, Gyomei, and Sanemi simultaneously, and having his regeneration nullified by the domain's sun-like light, is disintegrated. Muchiro and Genya survive, although they are seriously injured, but Yuta heals them afterward. When Obanai and Mitsuri, alongside the other Hashiras, finish off Nakimi, the castle collapses still before dawn. Muzan appears in his final form, but this time he faces all the surviving Hashiras, along with Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, Kanao, and Yuta. Even though he's resilient, Muzan is forced to retreat by shockwaves and decides to target Yuta in an attempt to gain immunity to positive energy. He tries to absorb Rika, and Yuta realizes that this would give Muzan immunity. Then Yuta connects his soul to hers with a kiss and fires a beam of pure love, converted into a curse reversal technique. The attack destroys almost all of Muzan's hearts and brains, preventing his regeneration. Tanjiro takes advantage and uses the 13th form of Hinokami Kagura to finish destroying Muzan's other vital organs, while the Hashiras eliminate the remaining tentacles. Rengoku and Gyu protect Yuta as the sun rises. Unable to reach the shade, Muzan is reduced to ashes in seconds. The war ends with an overwhelming victory. Yuta Okotsu's presence, with his healing ability and Rika's versatility, filled the defensive gaps that caused so many deaths in the original timeline. In the end, Nezuko is cured by Tamayo, the Corps is disbanded, and Yuta returns thanks to Itadori and his friends who defeated the special Great Curse. What if Yuji Itadori was in Demon Slayer? Would the Jujutsu sorcerer be able to defeat Muzan? What changes would he make to the story? Would it be possible for Itadori to exterminate the demons without a Nichirin sword? Well, for Itadori, having a Nichirin sword doesn't really matter, because thanks to his cursed energy techniques, he's able to deal direct damage to his opponent's soul. That way, he could exterminate the demons by destroying their souls with pure brute strength. However, the biggest problem for Itadori will be the incredible speed of the demons, or rather, the upper moons, who reach speeds above the hypersonic level, while he has only shown feats of supersonic speed. So, will Itadori be able to overcome this difference with the powers he acquired by the end of Jujutsu Kaisen? But how did Itadori end up in Demon Slayer? Look, after Sukuna's final battle, Itadori, along with Megumi and Nobara, set out on another mission to face a new special grade curse that appeared in Tokyo. But this wasn't just an ordinary curse. Letting his guard down, Itadori is struck by a powerful energy, sending him directly through dimensions to another universe, or rather, to the universe of Demon Slayer. Itadori lands in the middle of the battlefield where Sanemi and Obanai were. Both Hashiras remain on alert around Itadori, who fell from the sky amidst lightning and thunder. The Hashiras consider Itadori an Oni, since he survived a fall from an absurd height. Obanai doesn't see any traces of a demon in Itadori, meaning nothing that shows he is one. However, Sanemi, without a second thought, goes after the Jujutsu sorcerer. After all, they were on a mission to hunt demons who were kidnapping humans. Itadori could very well be a demon disguising himself to kidnap them. The battle then begins, with Sanemi surprising Itadori with his overwhelming speed, cutting his arm in an instant. Something that, when observed, makes no difference at all to Itadori. Thanks to his innate blood technique, he reconnects his arm to his body, and by using the reverse curse technique, he regenerates, spending less energy than an ordinary sorcerer. Something that will be extremely important for the battles Itadori will face here. But look, seeing this, there's no doubt that Itadori is a demon. After all, humans in this universe don't have any powers, especially regenerative powers. Itadori uses his blood to strengthen his body and speed up his metabolism, allowing him to increase his speed and endurance. When he awakens his cursed arm, Itadori is able to block Sanemi and Obanai's swords, surprising the Hashiras with a powerful blow charged with cursed energy. In terms of power and brute strength, Itadori is beyond the Hashiras and close to the powers of an upper moon. The damage dealt to the Hashiras is immense, paralyzing both of them for a moment. Itadori imagines being transported to a place where evil sorcerers are collaborating with curses. However, one of the hunters from the Corps arrives at the moment of the battle to say that he spotted the demon who was kidnapping humans and he was fleeing with his prey. Itadori, driven by his innate desire to help and protect people without thinking twice, turns his back on the Hashiras and heads to where the demon is. As the army of Onis appeared in front of Itadori to stop his advance, the sorcerer quickly crushed them with his fists and with an insane sequence of black flashes, striking their souls directly and exorcising them with his own fists. Facing the Oni, Itadori exterminates it with a powerful blow and rescues the tied-up victim, telling them that he himself would guarantee their safety from that moment on. This attitude, when observed by the Hashiras, makes them question who Itadori Yuji is and what he was. Obanai turns to Itadori and questions his existence. Doubts swirled around them, and Obanai wondered if Itadori was a free Oni. Free from Muzan's control or someone like Muzan? Well, after a conversation that brought clarity to both sides, Obanai and Sanemi take Itadori to the Demon Slayer Corps so that Buyashiki, the leader of the Corps, can take action regarding the Jujutsu Sorcerer. Upon arriving at the Corps, a meeting called by Tomioka and Shinobu was taking place to decide the future of Tanjiro and Inezuko in the Corps. Sanemi, once again as reckless as always, attacks Inezuko in front of Itadori and Tanjiro, something that would upset not only Tanjiro but also Itadori, even though he was against Sanemi's actions, saying that Inezuko, through her actions, should prove to be someone trustworthy. Otherwise, until then, the organization should remain neutral. During the meeting and the facts presented by Tanjiro and Tomioka, Itadori began to see Inezuko as someone fighting against her own curse to protect humans, exactly the kind of conflict he himself carried because of Sukuna. She represents choice, control, and humanity, where there should only be hatred. Sanemi's attitude irritated him because to him, Sanemi isn't attacking the monster, but a living exception. And exceptions deserve a chance to prove themselves, not a sentence. Such words would make the Hashiras see Itadori's maturity and understand that he has already been through a lot to reach the level of power he has today. After all, he fought against two Hashiras at the same time and stood out. When he arrives at the meeting, Ubuyashiki calms everyone down and tells Itadori that Muzan might help him get back home. After all, he is the king of the demons, the one who knows about all demons in existence. These demons have unique powers, so one of them might be able to help him return to his universe. He just needs to find him through Muzan. Itadori then joins the Demon Slayer Corps, and he is sent with Rengoku, Tanjiro, and their friends to the Infinity Train. On the train, Tanjiro thanks Itadori for his words and actions toward his sister. The two of them would get along very well. Because he's a Jujutsu sorcerer, Itadori is able to sense the demon for the same reasons he senses curses: hostile intent, distorted aura, and unnatural presence. He wouldn't call it a curse, but his instincts would already be in combat mode before he even understood what it was. Soon, Itadori locates the demons, who would appear on the train as part of Enmu's distraction, and he would finish them off alongside Rengoku, the Flame Hashira. Sensing another presence on the train, Itadori runs to the hunters, locating Enmu before he merges with the train, meeting his end by Rengoku's blade. Up ahead, the train is derailed by Akaza, the Upper Moon 3 who appears and attacks Tanjiro, but is stopped by Rengoku. And so an epic battle begins. But will Itadori be able to save Rengoku from his imminent death? Or better yet, will he be able to stop Akaza? Before I tell you, use your powerful black flash on the like button below to unlock your own domain expansion. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on. That's really important because the algorithm is practically Muzan. It only pays attention to those who show loyalty. Now look, the speed of Akaza and Rengoku might seem frightening to demon slayers below the Hashira level. However, Itadori manages to stay calm and determined to join the battle. Since both fighters aren't that different from Maki at her peak when she fought alongside Itadori against Sukuna, Akaza and Rengoku's movements still aren't beyond what he can handle. Itadori enters the battle as someone who will face the greatest fighter in Demon Slayer history hand to hand, which makes Akaza extremely excited. Akaza's fighting style keeps pressuring Itadori, but the sorcerer's blows have a devastating impact on the Oni. With his cursed arms and the power to dismantle with every strike, he starts to cause damage beyond Akaza's body, something that makes the Oni retreat during the exchange. Akaza appears tired, something that should be impossible for an Oni since they possess infinite stamina. Upper rank, 3 questions. Itadori's blows, because despite the cuts suffered on his body, even after regenerating, his energy has plummeted. Itadori simply says that he is a fighter whom someone like Akaza will never be able to defeat. This enrages the Oni to such an extent that it pushes him past his limits, further increasing his destructive blood demon art and making him even more aggressive and faster. Rengoku returns to the battle as Itadori's support, skillfully defending against the blows delivered by Akaza. blows that could easily pierce him and take any Hashira out of the fight. Such blows mean nothing to Itadori, thanks to his blood manipulation and resilient body. Such a body that withstood months as the vessel of Sukuna, the king of curses. In the end, the blows of both warriors cross paths, but it is Itadori's fist that breaks through the barrier between the two fighters, crushing Akaza's hand and landing a high-impact black flash on the Oni, completely exterminating him. Itadori proved to be someone of great value to the Demon Slayer Corps, defeating the Upper Moon after centuries and saving Rengoku from his imminent death. Later on, Tengen would request his presence in the entertainment district alongside Tanjiro and his friends. Thanks to his ability to detect Oni energy, Itadori would locate Daki, forcing the Oni to call her brother Gyutaro, who then unleashes powerful blood slashes at the hunters. But Itadori uses his shrine technique to cut off a piece of a house in the entertainment district and use it as a shield against the Oni's attacks, getting closer to the Oni to punch him. The series of blows delivered by Itadori makes Daki worry about her brother's safety, but she would be too busy dealing with the other hunters. The battle intensifies between Itadori and Gyutaro, with Uzui arriving to cut off the Oni's head. Gyutaro, even without his head, was still standing because Daki had not lost yet. And as we know, to exterminate the Upper Moons, both heads need to be cut off. But thanks to the presence of Itadori, while Uzui was holding Gyutaro without his head, Itadori helped the hunters with Daki, helping Inosuke finish off the Oni. And now notice that two major changes have happened. First, without Tanjiro damaging his sword in a direct fight against Gyutaro, there would be no reason for him to go to the Swordsmith village. And without awakening his Slayer mark, the Corps, from this moment on, would become even weaker. Since awakening the mark is crucial for victory against some of Muzan's Upper Moons, and Tanjiro's presence was essential for the survival of Muichiro and Mitsuri in the Swordsmith village. But fear not, because as a way to reward Itadori for his help, Uzui would send him to the Swordsmith village. After all, Itadori needs to recover, and there's nothing better than the best hot springs in Japan. When he meets Michiri, Itadori realizes how comforting it is to have companions. But the moment of peace is about to end because the village is invaded by Upper Moons 4 and 5. At this moment, Itadori senses the presence of the Upper Moons even before they start to act, preparing for battle alongside Michiri. Both run toward Gyoko, making a surprise attack against Oni. The shifting between phases of Upper Moon 5 is something that makes it a bit difficult to keep up, but it's something Itadori overcomes with a technique he hadn't shown before, the Blood Arrow, which hits Gyoko, putting him on alert and making him stop holding back, transforming into his hybrid fish form. The Oni boasts that his skin is harder than diamond, until Itadori's first black flash hits him squarely with his soul dismantling technique, which allows Michiri to surprise him and quickly decapitate him. When they realize that Multiro was thrown by a powerful gust of wind, both warriors run toward Rantengo's clones. Michiri, with his unique sword, delivers a precise cut to each Oni at once, forcing them to transform into Zorakuten. The Oni's dragons may look dangerous and frightening, but to Itadori, they're just wooden splinters. See, he has already been able to throw cars with his bare fists, as well as cause massive destruction to buildings and heavy structures. That's exactly why the dragons are stopped with punches, cut down by the shrine technique, and smashed apart by Itadori's divergent fist strikes. Letting his guard down, Zorakuten is decapitated by Mitsuri, and when Multiro returns to the battle, he exterminates the original clone of Rantengo, who was hiding in the forest. The village is saved thanks to the hunters and to Itadori. Muzan becomes furious with the failures of his demons, and he cannot allow losses in his army to keep happening. That's why he heads to the Demon Slayer Corps to wipe out the humans, who are gradually surpassing the power of his army thanks to the Jujutsu sorcerer. Buyashiki, sensing the danger and chaos, calls for the Hashira training. Right after the intense training, Muzan appears at Kaguya's mansion, and even though Tanjiro collected the blood of two extremely powerful Upper Moons, Nezuko hasn't gone through the process of adapting to the sun. That's exactly why Tamayo hasn't been able to cure her so far. So, Nezuko would join Tanjiro and the others in the battle at the Infinity Castle. At the moment, Tamayo is able to develop a poison similar to the original formula to slightly weaken the King of the Demons. And as soon as Muzan calls everyone to the Infinity Castle, Itadori falls alongside Shinobu. Both face Upper Moon 2. And now that we're in the final stretch, what do you think will happen? Will Itadori be able to save Shinobu from her cruel fate? Look, Itadori's strength allows him to break through the Oni's ice walls and overpower those techniques. Shinobu, on the other hand, puts pressure on Duma with her swift attacks, allowing Itadori to get close to the Oni and land a massive series of blows on him. And remember, in the final arc, even Sukuna was afraid of Itadori's blows, because as he advanced, he was gaining ground against the King of Curses. His dismantling technique landed cuts not only on Sukuna's physical body, but also on his soul. Precisely with these blows, Duma would lose his ability to concentrate, being exterminated by Shinobu's poison, which would be enhanced by the blows of the Jujutsu sorcerer. Moving forward, with the Infinity Castle collapsing thanks to the defeat of Nakime, the substitute Upper Fourth Moon, Itadori finally comes face to face with Muzan, who is extremely enraged with the sorcerer. Muzan's speed and power outclass any Upper Moon. He is infinitely faster and more destructive. To make sure Muzan doesn't cause unnecessary deaths, Itadori unleashes his domain expansion. And note that Itadori's domain expansion isn't focused on external destruction, but on direct impact to the essence. Each attack inside the domain hits the target's soul, exactly Muzan's weak point since he relies on physical regeneration, not spiritual. Inside the domain, Muzan's body would keep trying to rebuild itself, but his soul would be shattered by Itadori's consecutive impacts. Muzan would lose central control, something that would make his regeneration increasingly difficult. Itadori would get past Muzan's tentacles thanks to his insane upgraded technique, with his blood technique making him stronger and his regeneration happening in fractions of a second by using his reverse cursed energy. And since the domain guarantees a sure hit, every punch from Itadori would land in the perfect window for consecutive black flashes. This means direct damage to Muzan's soul core, completely purging the King of the Demons. The war between humans and demons finally came to an end, with no casualties thanks to Itadori. Before you think that Kokushibo was left out, remember that thanks to the core remaining intact, most of the Hashiras, without having to fight other Upper Moons besides Duma, would be present in the battle against Upper Moon 1. So, in the end, Itadori's friends defeat the special grade curse and bring him back during the ritual. Itadori will definitely be missed, but you don't have to miss him because I picked out this video here with another character that I'm sure you'll love to watch. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in this video here, otaku!